Hello and welcome to today's episode of Crypto. Oh my God, we're going back to some technical stuff and talking about my honest to God favorite, decentralization. Let's get right into it. Now, earlier this week, BaseChain, the Ethereum rollup coming out of Coinbase, did a pretty exciting announcement that they've reached stage 1 decentralization. Now, decentralization is technically up for grabs on its definition a little bit. However, Vitalik Buterin, founder of Ethereum, and the website L2Beat have been doing solid work in laying the foundation of what they expect decentralization to look like. This is something that will also likely come out of the SEC eventually. So anyway, let's get into this. Now, decentralization on the rollups has been a constant cause of concern. Again, the Ethereum layer 1, the actual foundation of Ethereum itself, highly decentralized, very valuable in that right. Now, the decentralization has caused the block times to be slower. That would be confirmation of transactions, as well as the cost to be slightly more expensive. This is something that competitors like Solana, which have taken an arguably more centralized approach, were able to do away with. Now, this translation means, are you trading user experience for state-level defensibility? It's hard to say. As my friend, the amazing techno lawyer Gabe Shapiro notes, as far as we know, Ethereum is the only chain to survive a direct US governmental censorship attack. This is involving the Tornado Cash case, which I've talked about in the past. So we can see the value of moving towards decentralization and what it means when the big boys, aka nations, come out to fight. Now, what does stage 1 decentralization actually mean? I think that this is something worth really looking into. We can see the list here on L2Beat, who has a great summary of the rollups and the L2s on the Ethereum ecosystem. And we can see the stage category. There's a few in stage 1. And of course, most are sitting in stage 0 with a very few stage 2 app chains in play. To be honest, I'm not even very familiar with these stage 2. Now, one thing to note, stage 0 simply implies that they are running their own server and that they are completely in control of all of the order transactions that go on there. This means if you have your money in their chain, you are subject to them simply locking it up and taking it. It's up to the whim of the server operator. Now, remember, the way Ethereum scales, we have the base layer and it is trading off that speed and that cheapness for the decentralization. Rollups take that trilemma away, and they basically say we're less decentralized, but we're going to be fast and we're going to be cheap. And the way they trade that off is they take bundles of transactions and they send that to the fully decentralized Ethereum-based layer. So these stages really revolve around a singular concept, which is that the rollup sequencers are all in charge of ordering transactions. That is what they fundamentally do. Now, the decentralization of that is, can people call out bad transactions? This is called fraud proofs. Are there external actors who look again at that roll-up hash that's going to the L1 and saying, hey, these transactions are invalid, they are untrue? Conversely, there is also the concern, can you look at that hash put to the L1 and reverse engineer those transactions? That is unpacking what is called the Merkle root. Now, to dive in really deeply and into some robust, rich information, L2Beat has a phenomenal page dedicated to the base rollup specifically. We have a very high-level dashboard at the top, which they do break down in depth below. We have this sort of pie chart, which shows green, which is all Gucci in terms of decentralization, and of course, we have the major remaining flaw, which is the exit window. Basically, what this means is that in a properly decentralized system, there would be an exit period or a window of opportunity to exit prior to any upgrade. In Ethereum world, the EIPs, Ethereum Improvement Proposals, they take time. They go through academic and rigorous debate. There is back and forth on the proposals. Generally, they are authored and then they are rebutted, and there is improvement periods, and eventually they go up to vote from the decentralized set of validators inside the network. After that vote takes place, there is a time to actually put it into the next chain upgrade. So all of this time means that if you don't like what's going on, you can take your money and you can leave. What they're saying here is that there is no exit window on base. Basically, if they want to push an upgrade, it happens automatically. There's no foreshadowing, there's no forecasting, and you don't know that something happened that you don't like until it's too late. And they view that as a problem. That is one primary criteria for getting to stage 2. But as we dive in, we can see that stage changes. They do put a timer of 90 days once you hit stage 1 that says if you don't meet this standard by the end of 90 days, we will move you back to stage stage 0. The standard being compromising greater than or equal to 75% of the Security Council should be the only way for a rollup to indefinitely block an L2 to L1 message or push an invalid L2 to L1 message. Remember, the L2 rolls up transactions and it maintains its security, its permanence, by pinning that message to the L1. Now, something you can actually do in a solid rollup is you can pay the L1 directly to include your transaction. That way, when the L2 processes the next block, it can pull that and recompile that transaction from the L1 history. This is how we maintain the permanence and technically inherit the security of the L1. Now, we have a lot of value secured, activity, on-chain costs. I mean, these could be exciting if you're interested in seeing the heartbeat of the chain itself, of the rollup. And again, that's why L2Beat has a heart as a logo, pretty on point. And so here we have the milestones and incidents, which I find to be pretty interesting. We have everything from mainnet launch to a chain stall that occurs in 2023, the use of blobs, which is an Ethereum scaling mechanic, all the way to fault proofs, again, meaning that other people can look at the transactions, validate them, or call fraud. And last but not least, Base achieves stage 1, really, that the fault proof call out is becoming decentralized amongst a group of actors. Now, the risk summary is pretty clear and pretty easy for anyone who's curious about using some of these rollups. And it says funds can be stolen if a contract receives a malicious code upgrade. And the upgrades must be approved by 3 parties. So not only do you need a malicious code upgrade, but you would need one of the multi-sig signers, the signatories, to actually push that bug through. Pretty safe in that regard. MEV, maximally extracted value, can be extracted if the operator exploits their centralized position to front run your transactions. Honestly, Base, the reason they would not do this is for brand security. It would be very bad for their brand if they were making a couple extra bucks by screwing over their users. So here you have the risk analysis that we saw up top with some very clear black and white as to what these components mean, what these chunks here in this 5 sections, and of course the exit window none. There's no window for users to exit in case of an unwanted regular upgrade, yada, yada, yada. So if you're curious, please do dive in. I have all of this in the sources section in the description. And roll up stage, they've got that. And of course, we get to see stage 0 met, stage 1 met. Now 2 issues remain in stage 2. They've got the fraud proof submission is open to anyone. Again, the community, the broader participants in the group, that Security Council, they can call bullshit on fraudulent transactions. The second part being upgrades unrelated to on-chain provable bugs provide less than 30 days to exit. That would be that exit window that we're talking about. And lastly, the securities actions are not confined to on-chain provable bugs. This is really like what Ethereum does with the EIP, which is democratizing the future decisions of the chain. And that's how we get to stage 2, and that's how we look at true decentralization. Now, again, decentralization will likely be a metric that is also going to be checked off by regulators as well, but it is amazing to see the industry do some self-policing, because we've often said that we would, and there's just so much crime on the regular that it gets frustrating. So this is really fun. You can look at the data availability and what DA layer they're using. You can look at state derivation, the node software. It's all here. Again, if you want to recompile the validity of these transactions, they give you everything that you need to rebuild. The state validation, if you want to actually look at how the code functions, and this is really one of the messages that I want to send through this channel, is that this is all math. This is a digitization layer that handles value. When you see scams, when you see nefarious crap, when you see bad CEOs stealing and going to jail, just know that's the product that they build. This is the same as email, right? You can send child porn over email. There's nothing to stop you from using the internet to do bad things. The same way, there's nothing to stop you using the blockchain. But the blockchain itself is built to be this highly verifiable open source framework for moving value globally. And quite honestly, when we get off the planet, it will be galactically. So this is a very interesting upgrade to the current financial system. There is no way for the government, again, to implore their powers as the man. And this is for the security of humanity in many ways. This is the freeing and the defensibility, the public defensibility of money. So anyway, a lot of really great resources in L2Beat, and they also have another amazing resource just to dive a little bit deeper into their stage requirements. So again, this is in the resources section, the sources, and if you want to dive in a little more black and white, this covers a lot of what I talked about, but I'm trying to speak quickly and go through this. So really awesome, robust information on the stage requirements. Now, last but not least, because I touched on this yesterday, we do you have Arizona State approving the first ever Bitcoin reserve, set to invest 10% of $31 billion in state assets. Of course, you got the governor coming out here, and she's saying, I do not have any concerns about the volatility of Bitcoin, simply because if you zoom out on all of the charts, it always increases in value. So that's really nice to see. Over the past 15 years, if you step back, you can be like, all right, this guy is a two and up in the right trajectory. This is a very exciting portend of, again, other states following suit, other nations, the US probably doing this on a federal level. And this is just one massive crack in that wall of global adoption of blockchain and blockchain assets. So really exciting times. And as always, stay safe, stay delevered, and I'll see you tomorrow.